What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz, Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, with a 3 days late, I'm sure by the time you see this, Raw review. Number one, shout out to my buddy James, who always gets a little bit concerned when my Raw review doesn't go up Monday night. I'm kidding, obviously. James is great. James is one of the best subscribers, best supporters, I should say, of this channel. Keep in mind, next week, being the go-home week to Night of Champions, I will hopefully be doing Spaz and Kayfabe tackle Hell in the Cell predictions, and there's a couple other things we're going to talk about at that time. As always, I'm going to ask you, go back a couple of videos, add your questions for the October Q&A to the September Q&A if you want your questions answered in the October Q&A. But let's talk about this Raw. The reason I didn't talk about this Raw until now was because I was tired as hell on Monday, I was tired as hell on Tuesday, and there's a lot I want to talk about on this show. Now, I do have two apologies. I did say that I was going to do a, what the hell did I say? Losing my train of thought less than a minute into the video. That's awesome. I did say I was going to do a SmackDown 15 review, and I had, okay, see, if I don't turn it off, this is what happens. This is what I get, guys. One time I forgot to turn the buzzer off, and, you know, silent, you know. AKA, for those of you that have been watching these videos for a long time, fuck off, I'm doing a vid! Anyways, what was I talking about? Lost my train of thought. Damn phone. I did say I was going to do a SmackDown 15 review, and I was going to surprise you guys. I was going to attempt a TNA Bound for Not So Much Glory review. Reason I didn't do either is because neither one of them deserved it. Oh, yes, I am the guy on the island defending the WWE right now and its current product, but even I can't defend SmackDown. Come on. The only thing that really happened of any note at all is we established that Teddy Long is the greatest SmackDown GM of all time. He's the only babyface that ever GM'd SmackDown. I mean, Stephanie was a face, but she was also a heel, so that kind of cancels each other out. We did a revamp of the Team Teddy versus Team Johnny from how many years ago at WrestleMania? I don't know, and it doesn't matter because it was 15 and each team had a half and a gator and the gator and the bull and all kinds of bullshit. And, you know, I guess we could say something about the segment where Ambrose and Cena show that they were on the same page enough to beat up Miz on his talk show, which is, you know, it is what it is. And Bound for Glory, I don't talk about TNA very much because I feel like I'm narrating a funeral. Is that bad to say? I'm narrating a funeral because TNA, folks, is dying. The rumors that CM Punk is going to TNA, etc., can kiss my ass until I see him pop up on the TV screen. I still watch it. I watch it for a laugh these days. The guys on the show are fantastic athletes, which really sucks. Their main pay-per-view was hosted by Wrestle1. They couldn't even host their own pay-per-view, and it looked like they held it at Japan's equivalent of the local YMCA, which is never a good thing, is it? You had a lot of friggin' something Hama versus EC3, basically EC3 versus Japan's version of Rikishi, complete with the thong and the stink face and the little strings hanging down, and whatever. Now, I will say, some of the other guys, like whoever, I don't know Japanese guys, so I'm not even going to try. The 4 Wrestle1 guys that put on the tag team match, other than the fact that I didn't know who they were and one guy didn't take his jacket off, was a decent match, I suppose. The Dudleys versus Tommy Dreamer and Abyss, for example, was pointless. The induction of the Dudleys into the almost irrelevant, and no, fuck that, the completely irrelevant TNA Hall of Fame was entirely lackluster. They did show respect to the Great Muta for hosting the event, etc., which was nice. I fell asleep during the Knockouts match, which, you know, as all of you guys know, I'm a big supporter of women's wrestling, so if I fell asleep during the Women's Championship match, that's bad, isn't it? The guy, like I say, the guy that fought Manic, the 4 guys from Japan that had the tag match, but Hama versus EC3 was painful. The guy that MVP fought was decent. Joe versus Kaz Hayashi versus, obviously this was a memorable paper, Loki. was a decent match. Joe got to pay his respects to the Japanese crowd speaking in Japanese, which for me in Canada who doesn't speak Japanese doesn't really hold much meaning, does it? But yeah, long story short, didn't review Bound for Glory, didn't review SmackDown 15 because I didn't feel there was anything to review. Now, leading into Hell in the Cell is another story because this was a fantastic Raw, so let's get into that. Instead, we open the show, best way to open the show possible, with Ambrose talking about how Rollins and his match at Hell in the Cell with Rollins is the main goal of his, you know, it's all he's focused on right now. Cena is just a speed bump. Cena is just in the way. He sees what the Authority is trying to do. They're playing two ends against the middle, hoping that he and Cena destroy each other, but he only has one option left. At Hell in the Cell, he's going to beat Cena senseless, and then he's going to bounce Seth Rollins all over the Hell in the Cell. Cena comes out trying to be kind of big brother to Ambrose, which doesn't work at all because you need to relax. Our match is going to come in 2 weeks. Shut up, take these 2 weeks to get ready for it because it's the big one and you're the only... He says to Ambrose, he tries to give him a compliment, but it's backwards. He says, I gotta respect somebody like you. You're the only one that's willing to stand up to me. And I saw a graphic on Facebook the other day, which is fine because it just showed like CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Rollins, Reigns, Orton, Jericho, all these people like standing face to face with John Cena, proving once again that as much as he doesn't bother me as much these days, that John Cena is genuinely still a moron. Ambrose says, I've been ready to kick your ass for years. This is nothing new. Cena says, you will lose it all if you get in my face. I'll drop you one more time and I'm out of your league. Obviously, Cena's going to do the whole, if you think you're the future, you have to go through me. Blah, blah, blah. Triple H comes out and he says, you have 2 weeks, you will not be all crazy and whatnot tonight, you will rip each other up. Then he sets up a tag team match for tonight, and then he jokes with Stephanie McMahon that these guys are going to jump at the opportunity to tag with each other because they're too afraid to fight each other. They set up Cena and Ambrose versus the Usos versus Golden Stardust, which makes me momentarily worried because during his rivalry with The Miz, did John Cena and The Miz not momentarily hold the tag team belts together, which was... Does anybody want to see Cena and Ambrose as the tag team champions? No, 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 and no. But it's a decent... Like, this is for a match with Cena in it. I mean, the Dust Brothers versus the Usos we've seen a lot recently, and even I will admit that. So that has the danger of going stale, plus you throw in the fact that Cena's in the match, you think this has all kinds of potential to fail. But this is actually a really good match. I'm actually going to go through this bit by... why? There we go. Phones and lights. And my camera's still on, so that's a plus, but I'm fighting with technology, guys. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Even though I've waited 3 days, I'm still tired as fuck. It's still ridiculous o'clock at night. Ambrose and Cena double-team Jimmy Uso to start. Ambrose takes down Jay with a bow tie choke, which looks really nice. Jay hits a crossbody on Cena, which is rolled through into the AA, which is countered into a super kick, which is a nice little scenario there, giving Cena a bit of credit where it's due, even though it hurts. Jay gets a key lock on Cena. Cena powers out of it and gets a drop kick for his troubles, and then is the victim of the Samoan drop. The commentators, where you usually think that they would really be kissing Cena's ass, they really do focus on the tag team title feud between the two brother tag teams, and I really like it. That's a nice touch. It's going against that let's kiss John Cena's ass grain. Armbar on Cena by Jimmy as we want Stardust chance, which is fine. Hot tag to Ambrose who mauls Jimmy Uso. Stardust pulls, I can read my own writing, I promise. Hot tag to Ambrose, who mauls Jimmy Uso. While this is happening, Stardust pulls Jimmy onto the outside the ring and brawls with him for a little bit, including tossing him over the guardrail. And we have a commercial break at the worst possible time, obviously. We come back, Gold and Stardust are double-teaming Jimmy Uso in the ring. Goldust and Jimmy battle with chops. Stardust, being still Cody Rhodes, obviously, you know, this is a thing, takes a page out of Orton's handbook and does sort of the stomp, you know, walking around, stomping on the hands, stomping on the knees, stomping on the fingers, etc. And then he puts him in what I can only refer to as an inverted full Nelson. Instead of having his hands up like this, he has them down like this, and we get Uso chance. The two brother teams brawl on the outside, and Ambrose jumps in. I missed something. No, I didn't. Cena and Stardust tag, and we see the 5 moods of doom, but Stardust, of all people, escapes the attitude adjustment. The Usos dive onto the Dusts on the outside, then Cena jumps on the pile, then Ambrose jumps on the pile. The Usos are down on the outside, doing God knows what, as both the Dirty Deeds and the attitude adjustment to Gold and Stardust, and obviously Cena and Ambrose, get the win. Triple H comes back out tonight. His plan didn't work. He's pissed off. Why wait? We're going to have Ambrose versus Cena in the Hell in a Cell contract hardcore on a pole, you know, and a partridge in a pear tree match tonight on Raw instead of at the pay-per-view, which is fantastic. Which means all the people that were bitching about that match, even though it is perfectly logical, can, you know, rest easy because it's going to happen on Raw for free on free TV, and yeah. AJ and Layla versus Alicia Fox and Paige. We play up the fact that AJ is once again this babyface lone wolf character, and the fact that she can't have very many tag team partners, and her partner is Layla, who's a heel, so this is going to be fun, isn't it? AJ gets in at the start, basically yelling, screaming, begging Paige to tag in so that they can renew their rivalry, but she's in there with Alicia Fox. Fox takes down AJ and Paige finally tags in, doesn't really do much, runs around the outside of the ring and tags out again. Alicia Fox takes out AJ once again as Layla walks out on her. AJ, in all this scuffle, managed to hit the Shining Wizard, still gets the win. Shining Wizard, especially when it's done by AJ, is a beautiful, beautiful move, it must be said. I'm blitzing through this because it was a short match. She kind of disposes of her 2-on-1 assailants in the ring and then proceeds to destroy Layla in the aisleway, which is good. Oh yes. Triple H, Stephanie, and Orton are shown in the back. Orton, playing up on his inner workings troubles, authority troubles with Rollins. He says, I'm going to destroy Ziggler tonight to show somebody like Rollins how it's done. Rollins says he's the future, Rollins says he's the spotlight, and that's just fine, but we all know that Cena and Ambrose can beat him on their worst day. And then he says, I want the loser of the contract on a pole match tonight at Hell in a Cell as well. And that will be the main event. Now, both of them want Raw. How can I say this without sounding like a grade A moron? Both Cena and Ambrose want Rollins. The winner gets Rollins. The loser doesn't get Rollins. So the loser, who doesn't want to face Orton because they want to face Rollins, has to face Orton. I get that. That much is cool. That much is really cool, and I get it. But I don't understand why Orton, who has no real stake in anything, and the loser of a match on Raw, would be the main event. We will find out later on. We see, once again, the Eric Rowan has been set free by Bray Wyatt promo. And then we have... Guys, I know the YWC rulebook says you have to complain about repeated matches we've seen a lot. But I'm sorry, one of my favorite matches to see on Raw at pay-per-view at whatever is Dolph Ziggler versus Randy Orton, because it's magical every single time, and I'm going to run through it with you right now, show you how magical it was this time around. We have several stiff collar and elbow tie-ups to start this match. Orton eats the steps outside, back inside. Ziggler beats down Orton in the corner. A sleeper on Orton is countered into a sleeper on Orton by Ziggler is countered into a back suplex by Orton. Orton eats all 4 turnbuckles, which is a neat little spot. Takes him to one, takes him to the next one, takes him to the... It's almost like he's trying to win a 4 corners match, which kind of makes me smile just a little bit. Orton hits the front suplex on the top rope for Ziggler. Basically hangs his gut over the ropes, working over the midsection, which is nice. RKO works on the neck, but when you land flat, you still hit your gut. The psychology is there. Ziggler counters Orton into the guardrail on the outside, obviously. Orton tried to throw him into the guardrail, countered, he hits the guardrail instead. Ziggler counters the suspension DDT into a backdrop, then drop kicks Orton off the apron to the floor. So, he has him in the suspension DDT, he flips out of that, Orton gets dropped onto the apron and then kicked off the apron outside. I was writing this stuff really fast, so I'm kind of going to try to explain... I'm going to try to explain verbally what my really, really fast, and I will say, very, very messy notes from Monday say. And obviously I'm trying to remember it 3 days ago, so that is also a thing. Commercial break. Comes back, sees Orton riding a hard headlock on Ziggler. Orton catapults Ziggler headfirst into the turnbuckle. Orton and Ziggler exchange headbutts as Orton attempts a superplex and falls instead. Orton crotches Ziggler on the top rope so that he can't capitalize on that fall, and a top rope superplex by Orton gets him a near fall. Orton and Ziggler trade punches. A rapid clothesline by Ziggler. Okay, rapidly from Ziggler you get a clothesline, a neckbreaker, and a hard elbow for 2. Orton counters a superkick into a power slam and successfully, finally, hits the suspension DDT. And then we get an RKO countered into a roll-up, countered into a dropkick, countered into a DDT, countered into a famouser, countered into a superkick that gets a 2-fall for Ziggler. And the closing moment of this match is fantastic, and I have to be careful how I say it so that I can... Why are you beeping at me while I'm trying to talk to my friends here. You beeping, beeping, lights turning. I'm sorry, guys. All of my technology is conspiring against me tonight. It is, in fact, a thing. But Dolph Ziggler, we've seen the very typical spot before where Dolph Ziggler goes for the Famouser, gets caught, drops in a powerbomb. Ziggler goes for the Famouser, gets countered into the powerbomb position, but Randy Orton does not, in fact, drop him for a powerbomb, as you would, throws him straight up in the air, catches him in a mid-air RKO. Fucking brilliant move, brilliant match. This deserves to be on pay-per-view. If Orton wasn't doing what he's doing at Hell in the Cell, which we're going to get to later, I would love to see Orton infused into the Ziggler-Cesaro rivalry for the Intercontinental Championship, I want to say. Yes, Intercontinental Championship. Because Orton taking a step down, we've seen him do it before, he can definitely do it again. Orton could spice up an already amazing Intercontinental title feud between Ziggler and Cesaro and give them some notoriety and some name value and some main marquee status for the mid-card championship feud. That would be fantastic. That's me fantasy booking. That's me rambling. What we see after the match is Rollins coming down to the already fallen Ziggler and curb stomping him in front of Randy Orton to prove some kind of point, to prolong the story of the dissension in the authority between Rollins and Orton, and I guess also Kane, but Kane's irrelevant and walking around in dress pants like Al Bundy, so we're not going to talk about him. Rollins then stays out for his match, which is Rollins versus Swagger, which starts with a lot of stalling. Rollins hits a lot of arm... Why? There we go. Rollins hits a lot of arm locks on Swagger. Rollins goes outside a lot to avoid Swagger. And on the outside, he gets a shoulder block and a nice slam from Jack Swagger. Rollins blocks a second rope super belly to belly and hangs Swagger's arm over the rope. In the process, Rollins then works over Swagger's arm in the ropes, including a key lock. Belly to belly by Swagger and a missed second rope splash. But once they get out to the outside, he hits him with another amazing shoulder tackle. Swagger, being the big guy, using a simple move like a shoulder tackle is really, really nice. And he's getting really, really good at it. To watch him do something like that in the ring, I marvel, and this is where I'm going to go off on another tangent, I marvel at how much I'm into what Jack Swagger is doing now, compared to like maybe 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, where I could not have been paid to give a fuck about him. It's nice, it's good, it's interesting. We have the shoulder tackle on the outside. Orton comes back down to watch the match. Suicide dive on Swagger by Rollins on the outside, and we go to commercial break. We come back just in time to see Swagger get an enziguri from Seth Rollins and gets him a near fall. We see a simple splash by Rollins, which is simple but quite effective, and while he's got him down, why not throw a couple knees into Jack Swagger's ribs. A snapmare and a boot to the spine, working over the midsection like a champ. Standing armbar by Rollins. Work goes back to working that arm that we were working on at the beginning of the match. Wheelbarrow suplex by Swagger is really, really sweet and something we haven't seen in a while. Second rope splash on Rollins, and Rollins rolls out of the Patriot Lock and hits Swagger with a super kick. Rollins counters the second attempt at a wheelbarrow suplex into a roll-up and gets a quick, albeit kind of out of nowhere, victory for Rollins. And in a little bit of tit-for-tat, Orton comes in and RKOs Swagger in front of Rollins. There's a stare down. We think something's going to happen. It doesn't. But we are building that story, which is nice, and we're keeping Kane out of it, which is even nicer. Renee interviews Dean Ambrose in the back. First of all, let me say, is Renee not, like, ridiculously, deliciously hot? Just putting that out there. Dean Ambrose basically says, I'm not a nice guy, I'm not going to be a nice guy to Cena. Both Cena and Rollins are on the same highway to hell. Then we go to Tom Phillips, who's interviewing The Big Show, who says that Rusev has a glass jaw, and tonight I'm going to shatter it. Rusev versus Big Show could have been a train wreck, right? Big Show is Rusev is new and still kind of green and whatever. But they come out, Show owns Rusev for a good long time. And I mean like an extended good time, until Rusev comes back with a pretty impressive looking dropkick for a guy his size, I'm not gonna lie. Stomping at the midsection, stomping at the back, and then including a truly monstrous, massive headlock on the Big Show, using Big Show's own arm in the process. Gets him into the Accolade after working over the midsection quite a bit. Mark Henry comes down to cheer on, obviously to cheer on the Big Show. I'm losing my train of thought because I'm an idiot. Rusev breaks the Accolade and goes to chase off Mark Henry. Locks in the Accolade again. Henry gets pissed off and comes in, causes the disqualification. But Rusev is cornered. As Big Show comes around one side of the ring, Mark Henry comes around the other side of the ring, Rusev's in front of the announce table. He takes out Mark Henry again into the ring steps, but turns around just in time to get thrown by Henry into the Big Show, into the weapon of mass destruction punch. They get the win. And we kind of see this split second where they could have gone the direction of you cost me the match against Rusev, so now we're going to fight, and we get Big Show versus Mark Henry again, but we don't. They're buddies. They help each other out. They had each other's back. It's all good. It doesn't always have to do that. You know, Mark Henry doesn't have to be heel. Big Show doesn't have to be heel for the 100th time. Oh, no, he doesn't. Oh, no. Sheamus versus The Miz is pure comedy for a lot of reasons, most of them involving Damian Sandow on the outside, if I'm honest. It's an average match. Miz holds his own better than you would expect against the Ginger Cena, which is nice. I will say it, and I will say it until I run out of breath. Miz's short... it's when he gets his opponent on his knees and he hits that snap DDT. It's a pretty move. During this match, the commentators acknowledged that us, up here in Canada, just celebrated Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to all my fellow Canadian watchers out there, to my friends in the States. I think you guys just had Columbus Day, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, please put it down in the box below. To people in the rest of the world, the UK, Australia, etc., anybody else that's watching my videos, did you celebrate anything this weekend? Let me know. I don't know worldwide holiday schedules and shit. I'm sorry, I just don't. But yeah, Sandow is on the outside mimicking everything The Miz does, and it is, I can't describe it. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch the match. It's comedy gold. But, bottom line, Sheamus chases The Miz outside the ring, goes under the ring, then stops to bro kick Damien Mizdow while Miz escapes under the ring. Sheamus is looking for The Miz under the ring, who pops out on the other side, gets back into the ring just in time to see Sheamus get counted out. Sheamus has now been beaten, technically, by The Miz. Twice. Oh yes. And if you go on WWE.com, which I have, because I do that, we are going to see Miz, with Mizdow in his corner, obviously, versus Sheamus at the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, which is good. And it's good. And it's good. Please dispatch Sheamus. We do not need more than one John Cena on the show. We have some Divas crap, and before this match, and I know people are going to bitch about this because it's, oh my god, it's celebrity involvement. Some chick from some Real Housewives show was in the back talking to the Divas. It took up a grand total of maybe 20 seconds. Didn't ruin the show. This next match took up about 2 minutes. Didn't ruin the show. It was a pile of... I don't want to say pile of people match like I usually do, but it was a pile of Divas match for no particular reason other than to advance the Bella storyline. It was Brie, Naomi, Natalya, Neidhart, without Tyson Kidd, if I recall correctly, which is odd and kind of unfortunate because I'm hoping they move Tyson Kidd to Raw, versus Cameron, Summer Rae, and Nikki. Divas do non-main event diva stuff. And of course the match comes down to Nikki versus Brie. Nikki goes for her version of... I think it's called the Rack Attack, but it's really the shock treatment that Abyss uses, and it gets countered into, I don't know what Bree's calling it, but it's the X Factor. Basically, the shock treatment gets countered... Don't know what the fuck that was. Brie counters Nikki's shock treatment into an X Factor and gets the win. Obviously, Brie needs to win. Obviously, because Daniel Bryan is never coming back ever, if you've read the reports. He's Gimp for life! Oh, yes! Yes, yes. Wait a minute, is Daniel Bryan coming back? No, no, no. But we are, if you go back to WWE.com, getting Nikki versus Brie at Hell in the Cell. Which is fine, because that's what all this bullshit has been building to, and that's fine and wonderful. There's some ridiculous stipulation, the loser has to be the winner's servant, or some typical non-main event diva type stipulation, but we're going to get this match. Hopefully we're going to get it over with. We can get back to the whole AJ versus Paige thing. No, Alex, it doesn't have to be a submission match, but we need to cap off that feud so that they can fight with somebody else. I would love to see AJ get more of Layla, for example. I would love to see Paige win the championship and go on to destroy people like Natty. It's fine. It's wonderful. We get a solo promo by Bray Wyatt, who has been pushing his charges over the past few weeks. He talks about himself. He keeps referring to himself in sort of like the third-person objective. We're talking about it's coming. It never says I'm coming. It never even says he's coming, like he's talking in the third person. Always it's coming, it's coming. And then you see smoke billowing in, which could be nothing. Or it could be an indicator of the rumor that most of us have heard that Bray Wyatt is now going to be managing the Ascension, which will be very interesting because I figure that down the road, do we remember when the Brood debuted and Edge and Christian took on the Hardys a lot, didn't they? The Brood was obviously managed by Gangrel, and I think at the time Terry Reynolds was managing the Hardy Boys. But I don't really want to think about that, but whatever. And then Gangrel started managing the Hardys, who were still feuding with Edge and Christian. So, if we're doing this, down the line, we could see the former Wyatt family facing the Ascension for maybe the managerial or the guidance or the attention of Bray Wyatt. There's a feud custom made right there. Wyatt's versus the Ascension. Right out of NXT for all you NXT marks. It could be fantastic if that's what's going on. If it's going to be something else completely. If Bray Wyatt's finally going to get a solo push, it'll be great. Do we not already know that Eric Rowan is going to be the one left in the dust if they're all going for a singles career? Does anybody doubt that? Luke Harper is going to do something. Bray Wyatt is Bray Wyatt. Eric Rowan, who's been hiding behind a mask for the past 2 years and has had no real personality development whatsoever, is going to be the short straw. He's going to be the Jannetty of the Wyatt family, is he not? Oh, yes. Ambrose versus Cena, no holds barred contract on a pole match. Winner gets the main event, I guess, spot against Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell. Triple H and Stephanie come down to watch the match. The guys come down, they're introduced, whatever. And then coming down the ramp, we see Rollins come out, and Orton come out, and Kane come out. Ambrose and Cena brawl for a long time. They brawl up the rampway and they brawl on the stage, which is interesting because that is about as far away from the pole as you can be, and as far away from your objective as you can be, and still be in the arena. But when they get back to the ringside area, I should say, after a lot of coaxing and teasing, Ambrose does in fact turn around and clock Orton. Cena takes the opportunity to toss Ambrose into all of the authority. Everybody piles into the ring. There's a big melee, a big scuffle, and in that scuffle, Ambrose makes his way up to the turnbuckle and stands there and waits until he has John Cena's attention, and then just kind of goes and pulls the contract down, letting us know simultaneously that A, we're getting what everybody wants, which is Rollins versus Ambrose in Hell in a Cell, and we're getting another recurrence of one of the, I guess one of the most longest standing rivalries in WWE, which is John Cena versus Randy Orton. Both of them are going to happen in Hell in a Cell, at Hell in a Cell, and I don't have a problem with either one of them. I really, really don't. I think it's going to be funny, and I will say this now. I will celebrate in my own weird little way if Cena and Orton are the main event, only because the YWC will cry so much. So much. I do like, however, that in both situations, we have Cena versus Orton, Ambrose versus Rollins. We have the two good guys, Cena and Ambrose, that aren't getting along, and we have the two members of the Authority, Rollins and Orton, that aren't really getting along. I'm willing to bet that neither one of those matches is going to go down without some sort of interference. Orton or Cena are going to get involved in Rollins versus Ambrose. Rollins or Ambrose or both are going to get involved in Cena versus Orton. On top of that, we have Big Show versus Rusev, we have Sheamus versus The Miz for the U.S. Championship, and we have a grudge match between the Bellas. I'm sure we're going to see Ziggler versus Ambrose announced. I'm sure we're going to see another Divas title rematch, Paige versus AJ, announced, and we could get some other stuff. Maybe we'll... I don't know what else we'll get. We'll probably get another round of the Dust Brothers versus the Usos, which doesn't hurt my feelings at all, because even though the story is getting a little stale and the matches are getting a little bit repetitive, these guys still do genuinely put on good matches, so it's all good. As I say, next week, hopefully, myself and OKFabe are going to do our collab preview video, because you guys seem to be enjoying that. The week after that will be the October edition of Ask the Phoenix, so you have 2 more weeks to get your questions in for the next edition of Ask the Phoenix. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else to say. So, with that being said, I will say, I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. You can subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. What did you think of this Raw? What did you think of SmackDown 15? And what did you think, if you even bothered, of Bound for Glory? What are your thoughts going into Hell in the Cell? Do they jive with mine? Or am I a grade A moron? Like usual, don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.
You're a freak like me.